All right, thanks
Yep.
for being here today, Robert. It's so good to see you again. We are so grateful that you've joined us to write a chapter for our International Education Leadership book. Really looking forward to sharing not just the story from your chapter, the lesson, but also just having a chance to share a little bit more about who you are as a leader, as an educator with our community. So would you just start off and tell our viewers a little bit about your professional and personal background?
Yeah, sure. My name's Robert Rinaldo, originally from upstate New York, from a family of teachers. I went into teaching, I guess, feeling that it was where I felt most comfortable, working with kids at a young age as a swim coach, as a lifeguard, just where I was in my flow, no anxiety, no fear, just worked well, happened to work well with kids during my college years and even before. Went into secondary education and studied social studies education. And after that, I took it on internationally with the U.S. Peace Corps. Really enjoyed that experience and stayed overseas almost since 1985 with the Peace Corps and then in international education as a teacher, as a principal, as an athletic director, and as a head of school since 2009. So it's been quite a run over, and a little bit in the States, a short time in the state of Florida as well.
Tell me again about all the different countries where you've lived and worked.
Yeah, well, it started in Honduras, where I did my service as a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer. After my service, I really loved the culture. I really loved the people of Honduras, and after 2.5 years, I wasn't ready to leave. So at one point, I saw an advertisement for a social studies teacher at the American School of Tegucigalpa. I walked up the hill on this Las Lomas de Guijarro in Honduras in Tegus, and I applied for the position. I was given the position as a local hire, and that got me on my way. And I stayed there. I went back to New York for graduate school, but soon after was back in Honduras. Married a beautiful Honduran woman, my wife of 32 years, from Honduras, and our 2 children, Honduran, multicultural children. It's just been an amazing experience. So I started in Honduras, and after that, as a principal, as a head of school at the International School of Tegucigalpa, excuse me, and then as a head of school at the Lincoln School in San Jose, Costa Rica, for 7 amazing years in an amazing country. Yeah. And after that, now currently as the head of school at the GEMS American Academy in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, which I feel now after so many years in Latin America is like my first international experience.
That's kind of funny. That's true. You were Latin American, really, right? It
really was. The Peace Corps. I was 21 when I left, turned 22 as a volunteer. So it's been like almost all my life, and I'm not getting old, Lindsay, so it's been more than half my life. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Yep, such a wonderful experience to get a new chance in a new country there too. So you've lived in these different exotic places, you've worked in different schools, you've definitely encountered a lot of international educators over the years. What would you say, this is a big question, but what would you say makes international education unique?
Yeah, that's a big question. I look at my current role right now, and I work at the GEMS American Academy in Abu Dhabi, UAE, a country that was founded 50 years ago. And we know working at the American schools or international schools, usually with the privileged class of the country. But in Abu Dhabi, it seems like everyone's privileged. But we have the sons and daughters of the royal family, of very influential families. And as the economy shifts here in Abu Dhabi, very much, petroleum based, that's shifting. They talk about sustainability. They talk about creating. And I think, with our demographic at school is almost 65% Emirati, and Emiratis that can make an impact. So as an international educator or leader, I just see it as just a wonderful opportunity to influence the country, to teach skills that hopefully can add value to the country. So I think that could be here. It was the same in Costa Rica and the same in Tegucigalpa and Honduras. We work with students who have a chance to impact their countries. So that makes it very unique. And it's a big responsibility as well.
That's a good point. It is a big responsibility. And I know what you mean. And I remember being surprised by some of those aspects of it, but understanding that, these are usually children that come from a place of privilege, and there's certain stereotypes you might associate with that. But then, as you just described, looking at it from the standpoint of saying, it's an opportunity, it's a responsibility, but to really influence them to look at this in the global picture and their role. And like you said, to have an impact in their home country. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You're right. And, children of privilege, like we said, or different backgrounds, but still children with fears, with anxieties, and so it's, I really talk about, I'll talk more about this in my chapter about what I do is build confidence in kids. After all these years, it boils down to that, I think.
Yeah. I love that lens from your chapter. And I remember seeing that in action when I got to visit you at Lincoln in Costa Rica. I was thinking the other day about that entrepreneurship program that you built there. That was really cool.
Wonderful. Well, building our community, I love that, but I tell you, that was a community effort, and it really was, and everyone really believing in that the purpose of our mission, which was to impact our local and global communities, and
it was really a school partnership. It seemed like.
Yeah, what a wonderful place to work, and when everyone's on board with a purpose, and there's a trust amongst the people you work with, you can do amazing things, and you saw a little bit of that on your visit. Yep,
definitely. Which that's a perfect segue actually into my next question. I know you have so many possible stories that you could have written for this chapter, and we said, okay, there's just a little framework here. We've got multiple writers, we've got limited space. Just give us one. But what were some of the others that you thought about writing and sharing?
Well, to be honest, to be very honest with you, I was all about my topic on purposeful education. I've been on that for several years now, and I lived it too as a student. I just thought it had to at some point be more authentic. So I really was focused on that. But as I reflected on I think of stories, and I look back, I believe in holistic education, the value of arts and athletics. And in Honduras and in Central America, I had the opportunity to work as an athletic director and principal at the same time at the American School of Tegucigalpa. And I was very, very proud of the work we did to build structure around athletics, the Association of Bilingual Schools of Honduras, and put athletics as a focus. And then serving on the board of the American School of Central America, and then just the work we did in really making quality athletic programs, because I really believe in the benefits of that, and it also extended into the arts as well. I was considered writing about how we led that, and I think a big part of that, and it's something I look back on in my career, and I feel we did some great things, and I know we did great things because we created memories for students, and that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I love it. But it's all about the purpose. I went back and I wanted to write about, what's happening right now and where are we going with what's really the meaning and purpose of education.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, sounds like you have more stories to tell. So maybe there'll be more opportunities for that. Yeah. All right. So thinking back also to your early days as a head or as a principal and connecting that to what you've learned and what's coming out in your chapter, what would you say would be a key point or two that would stand out? You'd say, I really wish I had known that when I was earlier in my career, that you would say would be a great takeaway for our readers.
Well, I lived it. My chapter focuses on really teaching and learning, believing that it must be purposeful and authentic. We all live that. I lived that as a student, as a teacher, a young teacher, and I spent a lot of time, kind of struggling with the meaning of what we do. I really thought it was about connecting with kids, but the learning seemed to be disconnected from the passion for learning was sometimes disconnected. So, in addition to numeracy and literacy, I really believe that, and I state this in my chapter, the opportunity of students to identify a problem, to ideate, to iterate, to come up with solutions. And I think by doing that and giving students a chance to do that within the curriculum, It adds to their own wellness. And I guess that's my big focus in this chapter, is like really making it authentic and purposeful for students so they can make an impact with their learning. And I think, I quote Dewey a couple times in my chapter, John Dewey, and I know as an educational philosopher, he said students are born with a natural desire to do, to give, to serve. And this is from a century and more. And it's true. And why are we taking so long to get there? And this pandemic has really shown me that students, they need that. They need that opportunity. And there's so many issues that they want to step up and to add their voice to. So I think my chapter focuses on student agency.
I love it. I love that, just bringing in the word urgency too, to really that need, like we really need to face this issue. And it's true. It's looking around and going, how have we not? But we see it around us. We still see very adult-oriented schools, and if we make that shift, so I think there's some great takeaways in that chapter.
Yeah.
Get people, new and aspiring leaders, start to thinking about that. So thank you. Okay, so
and it's happening. Just want to say that there's pockets of that happen. It happens at our school. It happens in many schools. There's probably pockets of that at most schools. But is it what we do? Is it what we do? And you mentioned Lincoln, and I can say that's a school to look to for an example of authentic learning. Yep,
I would agree. Okay, so thinking more of probably not personal stories, but experiences that you've had as a person living abroad for so many years. There's things that people that just stay at home their whole lives, they don't get those experiences. They don't know those stories. So share with us. Is there something that, you go back to visit family and something that stands out that's just hilarious or embarrassing or hair raising or scary, or something that is just incredibly unique for those folks?
Okay. Yeah. Well, good. That's a good question. And
probably a few, right?
So many. I have one that very recent, I guess.
All right.
Currently, the Expo 2020, the World's Fair, is happening in Dubai. It started in October. It runs through April of 2022. It's a year later. It's Expo 2020. World's Fair, amazing. My wife and I have been 4 times already to Dubai. It's such an amazing place to see innovation. My wife being from Honduras and me having spent so much time in Honduras, National Day for Honduras was just a week and a half ago or so. So we went up to experience National Day, and I saw they had entertainers from Honduras. And one of my former students was on an international stage, just singing a beautiful, beautiful song. And I went up to her. I surprised her at the end of her performance. I had a chance to speak with her, and she said to me, she was so happy to see me, and she said, "It feels like there's family here." And I said to my wife walking out, if I had stayed in upstate New York, I wouldn't be in Dubai at a World's Fair speaking to one of my former students from Honduras, and it's just at this amazing stage, and that the global aspect of what we do, and my family being so global, my son and daughter just having been raised and overseas, that is just so unique. There's a lot of stories. I can tell some scary stories too, but I'll stick with that one.
Sure. I like it. Well, and the world is honestly, it's just so small. That is absolutely, I'm sure she was just overwhelmed, but excited.
Well,
that's so.
And we talked about her as a student, and she was a handful. And I kind of saw her way back then as like most likely to succeed. That type of student who just wants to do her thing, has the charisma to do it, but sometimes doesn't fit within the confined structure. And I believe in it. And that's another, I believe in every student. So it was so nice to see her there performing. Cool. It was amazing.
Oh, that's great. I love it. All right. So again, kind of a personal connection here, thinking of all the places you've been, visited, traveled to. And you said, if I could go on tomorrow, I would go back to this one spot. That's the number one. That's the space. And again, I'm asking you to kind of give away something maybe here that is a travel secret, if you will. But what would you say it would be?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be where I'm at in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. They just celebrated 50 years of the founding of the country. This is a brand new country. This is a powerhouse country. This is the future. It's amazing. I just getting to know the Middle East is amazing. You knew in Costa Rica, I just mentioned we had a great run there, and again, an amazing Latin American country. Costa Rica is so distinct, so focused on the environment and on sustainability and on it's just a beautiful country. However, at the end, it would go back to where I started. It's not really dreaming of it. Honduras for me is where it all started, and the people of Honduras and the culture of Honduras and the roots in Honduras. I believe in Honduras, and that might be where we eventually return to.
Very cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Go back to the start. I love it. I would imagine, as I continue in my education career too, I feel like the Dominican Republic, that will always be that's the one.
Yeah.
It just was so special, and it's those first experiences. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's great for our readers and our viewers to get to know you a little bit as a person, not just a writer with a name on the page there for your chapter and leadership lessons. And we're so excited to share all of that with our community. So thanks for joining me today, Rob.
Yeah, my pleasure, Lindsay. Great to see you again.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at SchoolRubric with educators from across the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.